we help companies implement solutions. You guys are more developing some of these solutions, so you probably have more direct line of communication and access to the Microsoft development team than we can. Yeah. So I won't ask you to share anything more than maybe you should. Right. But at least on the podcast.
Yeah. Anyone know the drink?
Welcome to a Shot at Business Central and a Beer podcast. To be truthful, this month's episode should be called the Shot at Business Central Bourbon and a Beer podcast. Why? Because our special guest Nirav Shah from 2 Increase wanted to help us expand our drinking palates by bringing in a hard-to-find bourbon for us to try. So, not only are you going to get the latest Business Central news and a beer review in this podcast, we've also tried out the Microsoft Teams integration with Business Central. Nirav will talk about 2 Increase's Business Central apps, and we might even throw in a bourbon review. Mark Twain said, "The secret of getting ahead is getting started, so let's get started and get moving forward."
Over 200,000 businesses running this on the fat tire.
Or fat tire, what did I say, flat? Sorry.
If any of the operations that you're doing require the use of an outside processor or subcontract vendor, that is not supported with assembly.
Don't be afraid to talk to your partner.
Today, we're drinking Arrogant Bastard Ale.
I want to know why Jim picked this beer over the other one.
Because I really think it resembled, my personality more than anything else.
Level 3, Knuckles has been dispatched. He's on his way.
I think one of the benefits and detriments all at the same time is the visibility that it gave us into our actual data.
Welcome to another edition of A Shot of Business Central and a Beer.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Shot of Business Central and a Beer. This is episode number 19. Ken and I have a special guest this week, a man by the name of Nirav Shah. I hope I pronounced your last name right.
Yeah, perfect.
He's going to be doing a little talking about his company 2 Increase later on the featured app segment. I'm sad to say he did not bring the beer, but he did bring a special treat for his segment. Oh, yeah. So Ken brought the beer. Yeah. So welcome, Ken, and welcome, Nirav, and tell us a little bit about this beer.
Glad to be here. Welcome, Nirav.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Today. It's always exciting when we have a special guest, someone joining us. The more the merrier, right?
Excellent.
So we're looking forward to learning about a little bit more about what 2 Increase is doing with Business Central. Yep. In the meantime, looks like we've all already cracked our beers and poured them. Looks like we're ready to hit the ground running today.
We are.
We're drinking a Sierra Nevada Octoberfest. Right. In honor of the season here, and end of October is upon us, so I thought we'd hit an Octoberfest beer. So Prost!
Prost! Nice. Air toast.
Pretty tasty.
What made you go with Sierra Nevada over something like Sam Adams?
Yeah, so I saw a few different Oktoberfest there. So one of the things, excellent question, leading me right into my research here, is that's one of the things that makes it's a little bit unique about the Sierra Nevada Oktoberfest is that they have a different recipe, a different brew every year. So this year's Sierra Nevada Oktoberfest is different than the 2019 or 2018 Oktoberfest. Yeah, so they change it up. Like a couple of years ago, it was like a 5.8%. Some different, slightly different characteristics on it. Yeah. This year it's a 6% alcohol ABV. 28 IBU, so not too bitter.
Yeah,
it's a lager.
I mean, first taste, it tastes like an Oktoberfest type of a beer to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Similar to the last month, I think we had Dynamo. Mm-hmm. Right, it was a copper lager.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
kind of similar to
kind
that.
of, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What is it about Oktoberfest beers that give it that I guess Oktoberfest taste?
I think for me it's getting cold and it just feels like it's a nice warm beer. I mean, it's a cold beer, but like you're drinking a hearty beer.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
and
kind of
with
warm
the
me up.
toastiness and all that's in it. I think it's a perfect time of the season to have Oktoberfest here. It's a nice addition here in the season.
It is actually toasty malts.
Yeah.
Toasty malts and German hops kind of give it a little bit of a fresh bread and floral fruity character. So it's actually specifically, it's like a beer, an Oktoberfest beer is typically a Marzen variety lager. You know, whatever makes it that type of variety, you know, what makes it specifically. A couple interesting things I saw, like, so Oktoberfest, right? Little bit of trivia. Everyone's probably heard of Oktoberfest.
Yeah,
of course.
Big festival in Germany.
Yeah.
Been to a bunch out here too.
That's actually mostly held in September.
Yeah.
So, which is a little bit odd. A little bit of trivia. So the size, how big is this? So over 2 weeks, they estimate that approximately 16 million pints of beer are consumed during the main Oktoberfest event in Munich.
16 million.
Yeah. So,
Well, you know, the
Hence where this, I would say, the stereotype comes from. Germans like to drink beer.
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, that probably the minimum quantity you get is 16 ounces
Yeah.
in a big mug.
yeah, and I don't know if this has anything, if you know what or why this is, but they say that there are only 6 local breweries that serve beer at Oktoberfest in Munich. So Paulaner, Spaten, Hockershore, Augustiner, Hofbrau, and Lowenbrau.
Really?
Those are the 6
So
brewers.
they're pumping out a
They're-
lot of beer.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
preparing months in advance.
Yeah, there's a secret recipe right there
Yeah.
for Oktoberfest.
Nah, I'm no beer connoisseur, but
Yeah.
I don't get the floral and fruity character. Do you guys get that?
Get a little bit of the
Maybe the-
crispiness.
Yeah.
No. And so the ratings, if you look at some of the beer ratings on this one, a lot of the comments said that, it said like, well, it's a pretty good beer, but it's a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
less strong,
Yeah.
doesn't have that bold, those
Right.
bold
Tone-
flavors.
yeah.
It's kind of like a toned down.
Toned down hoppy, you know, beer.
Yeah.
Oktoberfest beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Not,
You got a beer advocate rating?
it was like 3.8 something out of 5, 3.83 I think out of
Respectable.
5, which is pretty good. A couple of funny comments. This one guy says it has a thick bone-colored head. So bone color, right?
Oh my god.
And then my favorite one. It says all this stuff, like all these comments about the richness and the characteristics and the flavor, and then it summarizes it with saying, "This ain't too shabby."
Pure detail and this
Yeah.
ain't too shabby.
After 3 beers in.
Yeah. No, it's a good beer. I like
a good
it.
beer, yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it tastes when it warms up a little bit. It's kind of like the marker that we've seen going through. Beers can taste a little bit
They
different,
could.
or a
They
lot
could.
different, I guess.
Yeah.
as they
Once it
warm up.
warms
Yeah.
up a little
Yep.
bit,
Yeah.
sometimes better, sometimes worse.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So, Michael, what do we have on tap for today?
So we've got the usual shot of Business Central with a bunch of news. Well, not a bunch of news, but just some new news. Ken's going to go over some of the 2020 Release Wave 2 features. Then after that, we are going to do the featured app segment with Nirav for 2 Increase. And then once we're done with that, we're going to talk about a highly anticipated feature, the Microsoft Teams integration with Business Central. So everybody stay tuned and we'll see what happens. Back for the Shot of Business Central segment. I'd say there's a good amount of news and good amount of updates, but nothing too crazy. The Release Wave 2 updates have been rolling out all month, and I think that if you schedule them, they have to be done by either the middle of December or end of December, somewhere around there.
Yep, we're seeing the live production environments getting updated around the very last few days of October here.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's nice. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about all the Release Wave 2 features later in this segment. So to move on, AppSource now has over 1,000 apps. They broke the 1,000 app mark. Yeah. So
big milestone.
Yeah.
huge milestone. Still no feature option, but big milestone. Nobody knows what's new. Ken attended BC UG. Want to tell us a little bit about that, Ken?
Yeah, so the Business Central User Group Summit conference was held last week. It was a fully virtual event. Did the general session. They did the normal sessions. Hundreds of different sessions across all the Dynamics products. For Business Central, I did a session on building Power BI reports within Business Central and how to set up a data set and a data source and everything. My session, over 50 attendees were in my session, so I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you. Normally when you're physically on site, you've got this room, and normally I would say it's anywhere from about that 40, 50 people on a good session, where the room's mostly full. And so I was surprised, to be honest with you, that many people were diligent enough and disciplined enough to attend those sessions.
And out of the hundreds of sessions, Ken's session was in the top 10 for most attended.
Oh, yeah,
it's pretty good. Nice job.
Yeah,
Great job.
Good job.
Pat yourself on the back there.
Yep.
Or take another swing.
It was pretty good. One of the big news pieces that was interesting is they're releasing, the dynamic community is releasing this new platform, I guess you'd call it, called the Decision Accelerator platform or whatever. And so I think it's a big, whether you're an end user of a Dynamics product like Business Central or you're a partner, it's exciting. It's basically like a platform where you can subscribe to receiving information about different products. So I can say, you know what, I'm Ken, I'm interested in Business Central, Power BI, manufacturing, and credit and collections, or whatever, different software topics or business application topics or industries. And then when I log in, I have a news feed which shows me information, articles, videos, and content that has to do with those specific things that I'm interested in. So it's kind of tailoring a different view for each person based on their exact role, what industry they're in. So I think it's a positive. It's maybe a negative for some partners because there's an additional hefty fee that goes along with, if you want your brand, your company logo, and your products or whatever it is to be included in that platform. There's a significantly higher annual cost now to participate in that than what we've been used to in terms of being a partner that's a member and a sponsor.
So if you're a partner, do you sit back and have to deliberate if we subscribe to this with this cost? Are we going to still do we get more of a benefit from this than actually attending the actual conference? Are a lot of people not going to attend the conference because they still have a way to push their brand and their information now with this new platform?
Well, I think that's a good question, right? Yeah. So if I have marketing dollars, right, and I know I can 12 months a year communicate with interested parties and give them content, push content through there to them. Right. What is there less value in an on-site? I think that's yet to be determined. Yeah. We'll see. We're in the midst of a pandemic right now, so I think no one's interested in going traveling to conferences. Maybe. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe in a year or two, people are going to have all this pent-up energy to want to go to these events.
Yeah. I actually think from the Dynamics community standpoint, it's a pretty good idea. Obviously, it's revenue generating for them. Yeah. But for a partner, it's another way to get your information in front of these people that are actually on NAVUG that might need your services or whatnot. Because right now, it's just, they look at a form or whatever, and hey, this person might sound smart. Maybe we'll contact them and see what's going on. But, I like the idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one more way that people can digitally reach out to others with relevant content for them, right? You can't argue that that's a bad idea.
Not at all. So, Ken, tell us once more, do you like virtual sessions or no?
Virtual sessions. If I have to, if I have to speak at a virtual session, I'm happy to speak at a virtual session. But if I had the choice, I'd much rather be in person. I personally, it's just difficult for me to focus if I'm working all day, right? To sit and sit through an hour and a half general session, maybe go get a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom, and then come back and be disciplined enough to sit down for that next session, to start. I struggle with that. I get distracted, and when I'm physically there, obviously it's much easier, right?
What about you, Nirav?
Yeah, no, I agree. Rather be at the conference than at home. You have usually I work with a multi-monitor system in my office, so I'll have email continuously going on one side, and I'll have a video going on one side, and unfortunately my attention is not where it should be on the video screen. So no, I agree with Ken. For sure, a lot more valuable when you're at the conferences. So.
See, I'm the black sheep, I guess. I'm like on the fence, right? I like the ability to be able to not have to rush while taking notes or taking pictures of what somebody posts on the board, you know what I mean, with your phone. Yeah. I like having more time to actually pay attention to my notes. But I do miss the interactions. I mean, that's also a great
I
part
go there
about
for the
it,
free
so.
giveaways.
Yeah,
with like 50 pens.
50 pens.
This may be, I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, but I think like, okay, well, if I want to learn, I don't like the session I did. How does Power BI work within Business Central, right? There's other places I can go anytime to learn about that. I can go pull up YouTube, probably find some videos that are going to give me some content, right? So it's almost like always on demand. I can go look at these things. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's.
I think in the past too, they've been pretty bad at recording the sessions and posting them for people to see after the conference or whatnot. Yeah. I think that would help out a lot with some people too.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah,
it's really nice when you're able to talk to somebody in a similar industry or a different industry using the same product and see how they're applying the system, and the different ways of application of the functionality is very beneficial.
Yeah.
I think that type of interaction really comes core on an on-site conference.
Right, yeah, and that happens because you and I walk in, we don't know each other, we sit down next to each other 5 minutes before the session starts, strike up a conversation and find out, what we have in common. And that element isn't really there on the virtual.
So you guys are saying chat room conversations aren't up to par with speaking conversations? Who would have thought?
I could talk faster than I could type.
The next generation.
Kids, I was going to say, kids these days might not feel that way.
They're going to all virtual conferences in 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But all right, moving right along.
I still do this thing.
Microsoft has some new information on maintaining apps and per-tenant extensions for Business Central. So to start out with, they are providing resources to help app publishers stay current with their update responsibilities. Just because, this is a good thing because who hasn't had issues with installing apps and Business Central upgrades and all that stuff, you know what I mean?
I like the way you phrase that. Microsoft is releasing tools to help partners or app developers stay current on their products.
Yeah.
I would have introduced that topic as Microsoft is putting policies in place
that you have to follow
to ensure that force partners and app developers to keep their products current.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Yeah.
Because they don't want to have to keep supporting these old versions of Business Central online because the apps aren't compatible with the new version.
Yeah. Well, they'll just pull your app.
So is it the carrot or the stick?
Yeah, exactly.
But with that though, I noticed that they're doing a couple nice things. Supposedly, I guess they're providing resources, and some of these resources are like release plans, which they already do, access to pre-release bits. Information about what will be deprecated, policy definition of terms, training and coaching, and and some other things like service notifications. So they're giving you some sort of resources to help you, but
correct, absolutely. And to your point, they have done that. I think they're now formally doing that, so that people are aware and saying this is what's there. And then now they've added some time limits or durations on. At what point are they just going to cut your app out
Yep.
of the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Right after, and I think it's like 180 days
Yeah.
or something after the release. Right? It's a
As they should.
long period
Yeah.
of time.
As they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, if you want to work with Microsoft, you want to put your app out there,
Yep.
at least stay up to
Right.
date a little.
Now,
Yeah.
now, just to be clear, what's already been there is, so let's say version 16.5 is out today, and 17 or 2020 Wave 2 is coming out in a couple days or today. If that deployment fails, you already can set up people to get notifications that tells you that upgrade deployment failed, and here's why it failed. That's all already there.
Yeah.
We occasionally have to deal with that, and then we have our support team or developers go in. They identify what change has to be made. Sometimes it's that an app has to be updated to a newer version.
Yep.
Sometimes
Right.
it's some sort of piece of code that no longer is supported.
Yep.
Could be one of those things. But you make the change, and then it automatically reschedules the update to try again
Yep.
the next day or a couple days later.
Whenever, yeah.
And then it runs, and you get a
Okay.
notification that it was
That's
done.
successful,
So
yeah.
it's a relatively simple process, but I think there are, some people out there that aren't being diligent about keeping their apps up to date, or maybe they're no longer around
Yeah.
or supporting that app at
Yeah.
all.
I will say, I noticed when we first started doing the podcast, we were trying out a lot of different apps, and a lot of the apps weren't updated and didn't work with the current version of
Oh,
Business
yeah.
Central.
Right.
So there was a lot of
Right.
issues.
Right.
But lately,
Right,
plus there's so many apps now, so I haven't seen too many that
Yeah.
aren't working.
right. Yeah, we did. I did have one to get to 17, and in one environment I have that I had to update one of the apps that was in there. Once I updated the app to the new version, then the next
Yeah.
day it
Yeah.
updated it
That's
successfully.
Yep.
Nice. So definitely making some strides. All right. Ken, tell us about the 2020 Wave 2 features.
All right. So as we just discussed, 2020 Wave 2 is being deployed right around the last couple days of October. October 30th is, I think, when they said we noticed at least one environment I'm aware of was on the 29th.
Yeah.
So right around the end of October, they're coming in right at the quote October deadline of getting it deployed right into all these environments. Now there are 76 total new features and changes that are part of this. Microsoft has classified them into about 9 or 10 different categories. I've taken the liberty to simplify that into 3 categories for today. So we're going to go through some administration tools that are available and how you administer your environments. Then we're going to talk about new features, and we're not going to hit them all, but just a couple of the key ones that people should be aware of. And then thirdly, we'll talk about service and the performance.
All right.
So how does it run, how quickly, and so on. So the first thing I want to touch on, though, is that although 2020 Wave 2 is deploying at the end of October, not all features are going to be deployed right away. So there are about 5 that are going to be coming out in November, and some of those are that notifications to users of high-risk changes to selected setup fields. So if you want to know when someone has changed your adjust cost setting on inventory setup, for example, you can now set this up and it'll notify you that someone has changed this field on this setup table.
Nice
So that's
feature.
coming out in November, as well as enhanced email capabilities. This is another big one. It allows things like, it improves how you deliver emails through Business Central, including using like a user's local email client or account. Right. December 2020 is the biggest one is probably the integration between Business Central and Microsoft Teams. So that also is not coming out October. That'll be December, and we're going to talk more about that in our special feature segment later. February is the major one that's coming out in February is going to be the ability to restore your Business Central environment back to any point in time within the last 30 days. So that's coming out in February, as well as some bank rec improvements. All right. So what's coming out in October? So from an administration standpoint, the key thing is first of all, to get to the admin center in Business Central, there's now a new security role in CSP. So before, to get into the admin center, you had to be a global admin for your company. They've now created a new role called Dynamics Admin. We can assign that to multiple users, and that gives them access to the Business Central Admin Center.
Right. It's good. Good thinking.
Right. Now, once you're in the Admin Center, you now have visibility to the capacity of your environment. How many production environments do you have available? How many sandboxes? And how much data? How much database storage and file capacity do you have available to you? Because there is a limit now, 80 gig database space, and then you just purchase additional space. Right. So and then there's operations changes where it'll keep track of when you rename an environment or restore an environment or update your apps. So those are some of the admin features that are available. So I don't know, have you gone in and done anything with those?
No, you know what? I've been meaning to look to see if I can see the database and storage capacity and whatnot, but I have not. Just quick questions. Anybody know how much it costs to add database if you need it?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think
it's pretty pricey, $40 per gig or something like that.
That may be correct.
That's
yeah,
what I thought as well, yeah.
It's not super cheap.
Right.
Although, Microsoft is doing a bunch of things to minimize the database. They auto-compress the database. Right. The attachments are not stored in the database. They count that as separate storage. So to get to 80 gig of data in your database, we definitely have customers that have more than that for sure. Yeah. But the vast majority do not have 80 gig of data in their database. Right. So I think most people, that's not a concern for them. Yeah.
Lots of good features so far for the admin part.
So that's admin. So when we get to the new features, so as a user, what are some of the things that are available out there? The first and most important new feature is a feature called feature management. Did I say feature enough? So there's actually a page when you log into Business Central, you search for feature management. And what this is, it's a new page that they've created that you can see. So when Microsoft comes out with a new release, they don't automatically just enable all these new features on you. Many of those new features, you have to go into this feature management page and actually enable it. And there's a warning on some of them that says, hey, once you enable this feature, it's enabled. So there's no unenabling it or disabling it.
Now, can you do this company-wide or is it just user-wide, or per user?
It's company-wide.
It's company-wide?
So there's a new feature called, I don't know.
Navigate to navigate.
Whatever it is. That once you turn it on, it's global. It's like, now sometimes you can try it. There's a couple of them that say, try me, where you can try it and test it out and see, but so that's the first thing. So when you log in November and you don't see some of these features, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, that's why. You may have to go into this feature management page and actually enable that feature. Now, what you may want to do is first create a copy of your production environment to create a sandbox, and then go into the sandbox and enable the feature so that you can test it first to make sure it works and it doesn't impact anything negatively. Right.
Nice.
We talked about some enhanced emailing capabilities and emailing features. There's also some now new financial journal background checks. So some general journal related functions. So there's a new fact box that shows up on the page. So as you're keying in a journal entry, it shows you over in the fact box if you have any errors that are going to happen when you hit that post button. Like maybe your entry's out of balance, or your posting date is invalid. You actually can see it now right there on the fact box, and that's one of those features that you have to enable. And also the ability to reverse posted general journals. So you can actually open a new page called Posted General Journals, and it's a list of all the journal entries that have been posted. You can click on a line and say reverse this entry or reverse the whole register all at once. So some new tools to make it easier on that. And then I think one of the new features that's maybe not as noticeable to users, but from a reporting standpoint and analysis standpoint, this is huge. They've added 4 new fields to every table in the database. Those 4 fields are created by and created on. So it shows you the user who created that record and when they created it, the system date, and then also last modified on and last modified by. So we get this question all the time from customers saying, hey, how do I know who created this sales order? The answer is you don't know, unless you have a field you've added to track that, right? Now we know. We know every record without having to enable the change log, which is something that you could also do. But these are just now standard fields that have been added to every record in the database. So from a reporting and auditability standpoint, I think it's a huge feature.
That's great,
Okay. So, did I miss anything?
No, it looks like you got it
new
all.
features that you guys are aware of? No, okay. All right, so let's wrap it up here with some performance issues. So these are things that I think people, may take for granted, or you don't realize it until it's a problem.
Yeah.
But it's important because it's important to realize that it's almost like an equal focus on the features as the performance, right? From Microsoft's perspective. So the first thing is they've improved the performance of launching any page. And so what they're doing now is when you open up a page, it first updates the main content section, the main section of the page. So for the customer list, first it refreshes the list of customers. Then it starts refreshing the fact boxes. What this means is that users can, as soon as that main section comes up, they can act on it. They don't have to wait for fact boxes to refresh or other parts to the page to refresh. A little one, I've had a few users mention this to me. So let's say you want to run a report, and let's say you want to run your inventory valuation report as of September 30th. So you open up the report, you set your date parameter, you preview the report. And now you want to run it again as of August 31st. Well, today you have to go refine that report again off the menu and reopen the report request page and reset your date parameters. This is a little change, but they now keep that the request page open. So you can open multiple previews of the same report at the same time using different parameters. And it seems like a little issue, but when you're an accountant or someone who's trying to do month-end reconciliation, that's a little thing that saves you multiple steps, multiple clicks and keyboard strokes. So that's kind of a minor one, but I threw that one in there just because, from a user satisfaction, that we've had a couple people ask about that. Probably a more significant one to do with reports is, people may not know this, but behind the scenes, Microsoft keeps a replica copy of every Business Central database. And so what they've done is they've taken a list of about 25 to 30 reports, and they've added a property so that when you run these reports, it actually runs it off of the replica database. So what that does is it improves the performance not only for that report, because you're running it off of a different database, but it also improves the performance for all the other users because you're not hogging all that bandwidth running that report. So things like inventory valuation reports, accounts payable, aged accounts receivable, trial balance. Some of those are the reports that they've added that to. And then as a developer, you can actually go in and you can change a property on a standard report, or you can build a new report that uses the replica database. And again, it's all to improve performance for all users.
So that kind of brings me into a quick Stump Ken question.
Oh boy.
These database replicas, can they be saved? Are they saved globally, anywhere that Microsoft chooses, or are they saved only within a certain geographical region?
Only within a certain geographical region.
Nice. You guys like 9 for 10.
Well, that's easy
like
because I know there are geographical regions that require that the data be maintained within that region. Mainly in Europe. There's some countries that have specific rules and guidelines about where the data is stored. So that was easy. Michael.
It was on the fly.
I've reserved my stump question for Nirav during our special segment, so we can look forward to that.
Get ready.
I've got one more kind of performance-related thing to go through, and then I think it might wrap this up. And that is there's a new function called data retention policies. So, because there's a limit on this, not a limit, but there's a minimum, a default sizing of the database environment. There are certain log tables in the database that can quickly chew up space if you're not careful. One example of that is change log entries. So if you turn on change log entries and say, I want to track every change to every field on the customer, vendor, and item table, right? You're going to maybe write a ton of data out to that table. So these data retention policies allow you to set a time period that says, I only want to reserve or maintain my changelog entries for 3 months, let's say, or 6 months. And then there's processes that will then run an auto purge all those entries. And there's about a half dozen of these log type tables that are available for you to go in and set these retention policies on.
Right.
So it's not just any table in the database.
Right.
It's specific tables.
Yep.
But these are things, again, Microsoft's looking at the overall performance of Business Central, making it as fast as possible. And I see that continuing for the foreseeable future. They're going to continue to make sure that even the largest of the existing maybe nav databases that are out there are going to be able to run on Business Central Online.
Yeah.
And they should. I mean, cloud, it's obviously a cloud world, and it's going to be cloud first going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Performance is going to be key.
Absolutely.
Who wants to have loading times that just take forever? I mean, if you want people to stay on the cloud platform, better work just as crisp as on premise. So.
The other, one other little tidbit is there's the partner conference. We may have talked about this last month, but the Business Central Partner Conference is currently scheduled for April out in San Diego, California. I'm not sure if there's an EMEA conference also. There probably is. Nirav,
Yes, there's a EMEA conference coming up.
Okay, there you go. So this one's the U.S. or North American Directions Conference is scheduled for late April, San Diego. I've got my fingers crossed that I will be in San Diego in late April 2021.
If you had to put a number on it, a percentage, would you say 10% chance you're going to make San Diego with what's going on?
I got 51%.
51%?
51% confident I'm going to be in San Diego.
It's optimistic. I think I'd put it at about 20.
Well, you're not invited then.
No, I'm just saying. Crazy. All right. So that covers everything, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about 2 Increase here in a minute and grilling Nirav on some Stump Nirav questions.
No grilling, though, until we get the special treat that he brought.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Then you can be mean after that.
Very good point.
All right, everybody.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. Back for the featured apps segment, and today, as we mentioned earlier, we've got Nirav Shah from 2 Increase, and he's going to tell us a little bit about to increase. We're going to ask him some questions and whatnot. So
Yeah.
Nirav also has a background in NAV and Business Central as well. So Nirav, tell us a little bit about yourself.
We've been if you might, sorry,
Jump in.
You know, we full disclosure, we know Nirav for a while. We've worked with him for years, and as you mentioned, very very aware of features and functionality within Dynamics NAV and now Business Central.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited to have him here. And I gotta just say, this is now we may have to rename the podcast.
Rename the podcast
from a shot of Business Central and a beer to a shot of Business Central and bourbon and a beer. That's right.
That's right.
So special treat. Welcome, Nirav.
Thank you.
What'd you bring in, buddy?
So I brought in a Weller. So this is from the Buffalo Trace Distillery. They have this bourbon called Weller, and it's actually a similar mash of Pappy's. Have you heard of Pappy's?
Sure.
So very similar.
Pappy Van Winkle?
Pappy Van Winkle. Absolutely very hard to find bourbon. So I bought that in for you guys here to taste.
Nice.
It's winter time, so weather's getting cold. So this is a wheated bourbon.
Okay.
Right? So wheated means it has to be at least 51% corn.
To be bourbon.
To be bourbon,
it has
exactly.
to be 51% corn.
Yep. And then on top of that, it has to be aged in actually new charred barrels.
Oh.
So it have to be new, right? So the difference in whiskey, they'll reuse barrels from other spirits and age their spirit in there to make the whiskey. In bourbon, it has to be charred and new barrels.
Ah, okay.
And
So maybe like a
Yep.
Canadian whiskey.
Yeah.
Like Canadian Club or Seagram's or something.
Exactly.
Those might use used.
They could be used bourbon barrels basically
Got
and
it.
charred barrels, and they'll use it to make whiskey.
Nice.
So here's an interesting thing, right? So all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
Yes.
Heard of that before, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the question you asked
Hey,
me.
right, here's, and I got a stump question here. Here's one for you. Here's one right back at you.
All right.
Although you gave us the answer.
I did give you the
have to
answer.
ask
Yeah.
So I have to ask you: Are all pilsners lagers, or are all lagers pilsners?
I think all pilsners are lagers.
Yes,
Is that
very
correct?
good.
All
Very
right.
good. Pilsner is a type of lager.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for making it easy on us and not challenging us with
course,
the
no
bourbon
problem.
versus whiskey.
Yeah, no problem. So this is actually a very smooth bourbon. You probably tried those on, the usual suspects, right, from bourbon standpoint. But this is actually a special one because it's actually harder to find. This bourbon, it's on the lower end of the price scale, but when it comes in stock in Binny's or anything like that, it kind of goes right away. Within like 24 hours, the batch is gone. So this is the Weller Special Reserve wheated bourbon.
Now, I understand that at Binny's, which is where Michael and I go and pick up our beer usually.
Regulars.
A huge selection there.
Yeah.
I understand at Binny's that they have mailing lists, actually email lists, where for their best customers, they'll let them know when they've got a case or two of a select bourbon in.
Right.
Are you on the email
I'm
list?
not on
at
that
this
list.
point?
Nope.
Not yet.
I'm not on that list. No.
Not yet. Okay.
I have their number on speed dial though, so I'll call them when I know when they're getting a shipment.
Find out what's
What's coming in. Yeah.
Part of the morning routine.
So now you have something to shoot for, right?
Yeah, I do.
How do you get on that
How do you
list,
get on the
right?
list? Yeah. So sounds pretty VIP-ish. So I might have to start buying more bottles from Binny's. But this is actually one of my favorite bourbons, and wanted you guys to try it.
Yeah. No.
Now, full disclosure, we're not drinking it neat. And
No,
we're supposed to be drunk.
Yeah,
neat,
supposed to
right?
be drinking.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
that's fine. Get chastised. For
I got
that.
enough here on my chest. We're good.
But it is good. It is good. I only recently started drinking bourbon more.
Yeah.
Appreciating it
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is very good.
Yeah.
Very
excellent.
smooth.
Glad you guys like it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it in and expanding
definitely.
our horizons here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we welcome all types.
Yeah, there you go.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in the NAV channel, Business Central channel, since about 2012, implementing NAV. working with Ken and Michael at Solution Systems for many, many years. I've switched over recently to the ISV side, working with 2Increase. 2Increase actually is a pure play ISV in the Microsoft market. They make add-on solutions for all Microsoft, basically the Microsoft platforms, which is AX, F&O, NAV, and Business Central. So we have solutions, product portfolio around both of those platforms, and we've been doing it about the last 20 years or so. So our solutions are implemented all over the world. We're a true global ISV. Customers in 45 countries and about 2,500 customers worldwide.
Wow. Been around long. I remember years ago, back when people still printed out like paper documents and things. A catalog, a 2Increase add-on catalog for Dynamics NAV. It's like 100 pages thick. I mean, it was there was a lot of add-ons.
We still have many of those around today. We've scaled back a little bit in terms of what we bring to market, but a lot of them are supported internally for the customers that do have them. There's always ideas that we want to bring back certain products and stuff like that. But this is a space that we know really well, the dynamic space, both on the F&O and the Business Central side.
Yep. So what's your role at 2Increase?
Yeah, excellent question. So I'm basically in charge of pre-selling as a solution architect our industrial equipment manufacturing solution in the U.S. and Canada markets. So we have we sell globally. We have people located strategically. The vertical that I manage is our industrial equipment manufacturing. That's a number of different solutions within it. So I like to kind of call that our advanced jobs management suite in itself. So there's we have advanced jobs management that extends the standard jobs functionality in Business Central, and within that core product itself, there's a lot of other modules that connect to that, such as a module that we call manufacturing integration, which is very popular for those true make-to-order, engineer-order, configure-to-order manufacturers that need the full manufacturing capabilities and also need that full costing and forecasting and planning abilities from the job to manufacturing, tightly integrated. We provide that bridge in Business Central within jobs and in manufacturing. We also do on the other side, on the service, we have a service integration platform that integrates directly back into jobs as well, and resource management, kind of like a time clock entry system directly back into jobs. So really it's a one-stop place for any of your job functionality that you need. So Business Central, although it has jobs, it has manufacturing, it has service, they're kind of in their own silos in a sense, and what we do is kind of bring it all together for like a pure project manager or anybody in management or different players in the organization that look at jobs and need access to the job to see different aspects of what's happening. They could see it all within the job at one time. And that's where we make it really easy for the end user, really intuitive, kind of go to one place. You have your own planning engine called the Jobs Planning Engine to plan all your job items, look at all your manufacturing costs coming in real time, look at your outstanding manufacturing costs that you expect to get in, do budget to actuals to any open purchase orders, see what you've already received in, and then also on a WIP recognition standpoint side, when you look at what you're actually recognizing, not only do we have the ability to run WIP on the standard, you have your usual suspects, right? You have your percentage completion, you have your completed contract that actually are going against the budget. But we have taken that functionality one step further, and where you could actually do that against a forecast. So you can manipulate, kind of look at, what am I forecasting to come up here in the next quarter or next month before I run WIP, and look at the cost accumulated against that forecast and run your WIP process itself.
So kind of fair to say what you've done is you're taking the standard Business Central processes, manufacturing or jobs or service, and you're adding a layer, so to speak, of more advanced functionality and integration between them all, to provide a more
a clear picture of exactly what's happening, because these jobs are full-scale jobs, right? A lot of different activity happens within the job, from a cost-driving perspective, engineering.
What are some examples of customers? Like what types of industries are customers would get the best value out of this?
Yeah, so really true make to order, engineer to order, precise engineering. Where where they're making custom components for customers. So aerospace is a very good, a perfect fit, right? And then you could have an IEM, industrial equipment manufacturer, people like John Deere. You have Caterpillar, these different type of companies. You could have automotive. We have some customers on the automotive side as well. We have on airplanes, those Wi-Fi units on airplanes. Those are our customers as well. So really anywhere across the board, if you need the ability to manufacture, do project accounting, project manufacturing within Business Central, we provide that one stop solution for that.
Pretty nice. Now, your solutions, are they offered on AppSource or?
Yeah, absolutely. So our solutions are IEM. So we offer IEM on AppSource. It's a complete end-to-end solution on AppSource that we offer. It's been listed on there. We have a lot of good information on the different functionality points with our solution. We have brochures on there. And now, not only that, we have a few other apps on the Business Central side as well. So To Increase on the Business Central side is really known for their food solution. So we have full end-to-end food solution, a vertical, and we have the IEM solution, which is a full end-to-end vertical that we offer. And within that, I kind of briefly touched on jobs, but we have quality management, engineering change management, which are also kind of pieces that are always missing in Business Central, right? And we saw that there's a nice positive customer feedback to provide those solutions back to the market.
Sure. Yeah. And are you, everyone seems to be going to the subscription pricing model these days?
Yep.
So is that true for To Increase also?
Absolutely, yeah. We also are a purely subscription-based model for almost all of our solutions now. Yeah. So on the Business Central side.
Yeah, it seems like I think even Microsoft still offers the ability to purchase if you run on premise.
Correct.
Licenses, but I think everyone, especially 2020, we've seen like a huge move towards the subscription. There was maybe even in 2019 still hesitancy amongst a lot of people of moving to that route and would prefer to look, get a license.
But I've just recently actually had some conversations with some customers that Microsoft offered the perpetual licensing, so we had to work with them accordingly. So we understand how that works. Yeah, so that's we understand. But we do mainly do subscription. And we try to push.
That's how it works.
Ken, do you want to get into AppSource and the licensing and all that good stuff?
Are you looking forward?
I've been waiting for it. I've been waiting for it. Yeah, but it's up to you if you want to talk about it.
Well, no, we. In terms of AppSource, I will just share. I don't want to drag Nirav into this too much, but the from my perspective, one of the difficulties that we've had feedback on it, and I would say I'm in agreement with it, is that there's when you go on to AppSource and you're looking for a solution. There certain apps offer free trials where you can install it in your environment and get a free trial. Some of them don't offer a free trial, and they say but you can contact them for more information. But the pricing, I think what brought this up in your to you is the how do you price it? And the reality is that different companies price their apps differently. Some are per user, some are per module, some are per transaction, and there's no universal standard within Business Central or at Microsoft or on AppSource of how you're doing that. And if I can
it's hard to
get on my soapbox for a minute, there's no standard provided by Microsoft to say, hey, here are the options for how you should price your app. Right. You have to pick one of these, and then we'll handle the transaction of that license and the payment process for you. Yeah. So from our perspective as a Business Central partner, that's been an issue. It's like, how do we can launch apps up on AppSource, right? Yeah. But how do we monetize that? How do we charge people for it? Right. And right now, every partner is responsible for building their own licensing and payment processing platform.
Yeah.
For their apps, which has kind of made it difficult for people. So I don't know if you can if there's anything you want to share.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge a lot of ISVs face right now. It's basically self-policing, right? It's peer-to-peer policing, basically. From an ISV standpoint, are we following best practices? Are we doing what's best for the customer and best for the industry, right? And I think a lot of people in the same spaces to increase. We're still trying to learn and make sure that we're following the best guidelines from Microsoft, and at the same time we're providing our pricing our product that equates to the value it's providing to the customer, right? At the same time. So definitely challenges there, but what we're able to do from a to-increase standpoint is our app, our IEM app that's on Business Central, is part of the Embed program. So it's a unique program from a standpoint, and really to the end customer, it really is no difference from you get a BC environment from a SaaS environment, right? From cloud. But what this means is that we could control kind of a mixture of licenses basically from our standpoint. Okay. So we could say if you're going to have X number of users that don't need manufacturing, but you need X number of users that do need manufacturing, we could kind of configure a unique pricing model for this customer because we're on an embed, because of the platform that we're on with Microsoft. We're one of the strategic partners with Microsoft from an ISV standpoint. So from that side, we've been lucky that we're able to work with customers closely to provide the right pricing that makes the most sense, not saying a blanket statement saying just because you want to use our app, every user has to be charged X amount. Right, we know that's not the right model, especially in an app like ours, because it touches so many different places in the solution. Jobs is a pretty robust, in-depth solution in Business Central. So we understand that, and from our perspective, we've kind of come up with a model where we could satisfy the customer requirement from what their customer actually needs. But it's a challenge from other ISV perspective that is yet to be solved right now. That we hear it all the time, right? We have some products, our quality management and engineering change management. We know that how do you police that, right? And how do you from a user customer license perspective? So all that stuff will be worked out, and we're working on that constantly, day in and day out. But we feel the growing pains right now.
Yep. And I think the key thing is that and I'll put it this way, I think it's important for us partners to continue to put that pressure on Microsoft to make sure that there is a clear path forward for everyone, and not just for our sake, but for the end user's sake, right? You want it to be simple and transparent. Yeah. So whatever we can do, I think, to get to that point where it's easy for people to understand what's available, and then to actually execute it and get that solution deployed. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's ultimately, I think, everyone's goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Mike Morton's the new GM, pretty much, of Business Central. I know he's heard about this a few times.
Yeah. You probably we help companies implement solutions. You guys are more developing some of these solutions, so you probably have more direct line of communication and access to the Microsoft development team than we can. So I won't ask you to share anything more than maybe you should. Right. But at least on the podcast.
Yeah. Anyone know the drink?
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question then, which you kind of answered, I guess, but is pricing something that you can give our listeners now, or would you prefer they work with their partners?
Yeah, like I said, I think we're unique in a standpoint that we have a full end-to-end vertical solution what Microsoft considers. It's not just a solution you just add on. It really does satisfy the need for a true make-to-order job shop, custom make-to-order environment type of customer. So with that we could work with the customer closely to enable to bring pricing that's gonna that pricing itself will add a lot of value, right? We want to add more value than what actually the customer is paying, and we've kind of figured out what that model is, and we work with every customer to understand what each user is doing effectively in the system. Right. So we could
so it's kind of like an all-in price per user to say, okay, here's what you guys need, here's what you do. here for Business Central plus all of our
Correct.
our add-on
Yeah.
value and
Yes.
IP.
Correct. Yeah.
Intellectual property.
Yep. Yeah.
Here's kind of that all-in price
Right,
per
exactly.
user or however you
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we have some leeway there, and ultimately, who benefits here in this type of engagement is the customer,
Right.
Here, because it's not right off the shelf
specific to
type
them.
of pricing
Exactly,
that they would get.
All right.
Got anything for him?
No, anything else that you wanted to?
Well, maybe you could tell us where we
Bring
can
up
find out
or-
more information about 2 Increase.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 Increase, we have 2-increase.com. A lot of information there. I'm located out of Chicago, close to the podcast folks here, Solution Systems. So would definitely could reach out to me at nirav.shah@2increase.com. I'm sure my email will be on the
We'll put on the
podcast.
show notes,
Yeah.
But I'm
Let's wrap it up. I got 2 rapid fire questions
Yeah.
here. We'll wrap it up here. So you're sitting here talking to 2 Bears fans.
all right.
In the
Oh
middle,
God.
It's middle of football season.
You did see the last
here.
game though, right? So just be careful.
It's a winning season. Yeah.
I know, but
Don't
go to
interrupt me.
September.
I'm in the middle of an important question. Please don't interrupt me.
All right.
I didn't hear you. So are you a Bears fan or do you root for another team?
So I'm not a Bears fan. I'm a Cowboy fan. So
Cowboy,
Cowboy
another
fan. Yeah, and
Cowboy
I wouldn't
fan.
say they're any better either. I say that
Any better?
with the pillow on my head right now.
You can break out the bag.
How dare you?
Right?
So, I mean,
What
but
did
Dad
you-
going down was just, I was just hurt that day. I was really hurt. I think I was
Yeah.
crying for like 2 days.
Yeah.
It wasn't helping.
So chalk that up. So we got two guests
Yeah.
here, Cowboy fans.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to pre-vet them before we invite anyone else on here again. Make sure they're not Cowboys fans before they come on again.
You need to use Power BI.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And then I think I know the answer to this question already,
Yeah.
but I gotta ask this anyway. So you find out that you have an allergy to alcohol, but you find out that there's one drink that you can still drink without any effects of that allergy. What's that drink? What are you going to be
It
drinking?
would be this bourbon.
Right there,
Really?
I knew it.
It would be this bourbon.
Oh,
That was easy.
man.
Yeah.
That was an easy one.
Yeah, it would be
He
this
likes
bourbon.
it.
Yeah. This. Yeah.
This bourbon specifically, or you're open to really any high?
No,
any-
actually,
any
this
bourbon.
one.
This one
Yeah.
right here.
This is the one I could afford.
That's big for the dollar.
They don't let you ever go into that locked room at Benny's
Yeah.
where you got to
Oh,
get
yeah.
a special access into there? to
I
get
haven't
in?
You
had
got
the
your own
special
locker?
access yet, but I've seen it from outside.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming out and joining us. It's been
Yeah.
fun, and we
Yeah, we
enjoyed the
appreciate it.
bourbon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, next up, we've got we're going to deep dive into the integration between Microsoft Teams and Business Central. So, thanks again, Nirav.
Thank you.
You'll be sticking around.
Yep. Cheers.
Definitely. All right, back for the featured segment, which is one of my favorite features, and I guess one of the features that I've looked forward to the most, and that is the integration with Microsoft Teams and Business Central. Nirav, do you use Microsoft Teams?
Absolutely.
You like it?
I do like it. I like the newer versions of Teams.
Yeah.
It's a lot more intuitive, integrating our networks, and it makes it much easier to get files. And it's definitely more a collaborative type of environment, it feels like now.
100%.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I like it. Works flawlessly and everything.
Yeah.
So now, though, they have an integration with Business Central. And the integration to actually acquire it is pretty simple. Installation can be had in basically 5 steps.
Yeah.
It's really simple. There's nothing really too bad. The only issues I had with installing it is sometimes when you have to paste the link in the Teams, the Business Central link into Teams, I had to paste it maybe 3 to 5 times. The other issue, I know you experienced it too, was I was not able to log out of a demo environment of Microsoft Teams. I uninstalled the app. I tried logging out. Everything. It never happened.
Yeah, I think most users probably aren't going to deal with that, right? Because they only have their one account. You know,
Right.
so they log in as they're whoever they are, right?
Mhm.
We kind of have multiple personas or accounts and
Yep.
things here,
Yeah.
so we have to kind of switch and deal with those types of issues or incognito sessions or whatever. But I think most users wouldn't run into that. So how does it work in it? Like in a nutshell, Joe user sitting there, how would he work? How would he use the Teams integration? What would he do? Or
So
she do?
he just downloads the app, puts his credentials in, his or her put their credentials in. They copy the link from their Business Central web client. It only works with the web client.
Yep.
Paste it into Teams. Let's say the link is from the contact card. You paste it into Teams, and Teams basically provides you with a way to work collaboratively within Teams without leaving it, and you can change the item. You can see all the information, stuff like that. Now I tried a bunch of different pages that worked, like the general journals page worked, GL account card worked, GL account categories, cash flow, account schedules, sales quotes, yada yada yada, purchase orders.
So let's say I'm Ken, the salesperson. I'm a Business Central user, maybe, and I also have Teams. And so I go into Teams. Within Teams, I can go install the Business Central app
Yep.
into Teams, and then I go into Business Central. And let's say I work with a customer called the Cannon Group all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go to their customer card,
Right.
Copy
the
the
URL. The
or the
URL.
URL.
Right.
paste it into a
Teams.
Teams
Just into the
conversation
chat. Yep.
or chat.
And it brings up a little
The page,
page,
right?
I guess. Yeah.
Of that customer card.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now it works with all Business Central cards, I guess. Business page cards, whatever they call
Okay.
them. Card pages.
Yeah, I saw in Microsoft on the page that they showed an example of like pulling up an item record.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see a picture of the item and the item description and whatnot. So you say you can do it actually with any card.
Yep, that's what they said.
Mhm.
And every one I tried,
Yep.
it works. So now I've noticed too in the past week or two since I've installed it, they've actually been able to add some more features and things like that. So for instance, let's take the sales quote for an example. You can make changes on the page. You can create a new entry. You can delete information. You can make it convert it into an order. You can convert it into a sales invoice,
Wow.
copy document statistics. I mean, there is a whole list of things that you can actually do inside of Teams now for Business
Wow.
Central.
It almost sounds like almost anything you can do on that page within Business Central,
Right.
you can now do on that page within Teams.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seems like everything that, yeah.
Probably should follow your license. Essentials, Premium, and Teams
Yeah.
license model. So probably whoever has Teams probably can't write,
Right.
I think, into that record.
Except
Exactly.
quotes.
It's all
Quotes.
right. Yeah. Except quotes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I actually think this feature is going to have more functionality than the Outlook integration with Business Central,
That's a good
unless
point.
they're going to expand upon that as well. Which I haven't heard too much about that. Any new features with that? But.
Yeah.
No, and you might be right. It's like, people, up until now, at least, they always say, well, I spend most of my time in Outlook. They're in Outlook, right? So that's why it's important. You can hit that Contact Insights button
Yep.
and pull up that customer or vendor or contact's information right within Outlook. I think you're onto something, though. Maybe in the future, people might spend most of their time in Teams.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's what Microsoft's going towards.
Yeah. I
And
can see.
maybe within Teams you can see your email.
Yeah.
And
There you
so
go.
now you've got everything,
Now you got everything.
in there.
So it
Yeah.
goes back to the whole Microsoft One premise that they talked about a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So maybe Teams will be the end all be all, where you
I
don't
don't
even
know.
jump out of any.
Yeah.
You never jump out of it. But yeah, so in my notes I've got you're able to see list pages and card type pages from Business Central inside of Microsoft Teams.
Wow.
Nice.
So
Nice.
definitely a great feature. And I think Ken mentioned that it'll be available in December.
You can even, so if you have a quote, if you're looking at a quote in Teams, you can print
Yep.
or send that quote
Yep.
to a customer.
Yep. It's basically full functionality. Were you able to get it connected or integrated, whatever you want to call it?
I tried. No, I was having a problem with my authentication. I have multiple accounts, and it looked like it kept trying to log me into one account, which was different than the one I was testing with.
I would assume that's just like a little glitch from Microsoft right now.
That Teams is pretty cool because from our to increase advanced job standpoint, we could send summary budgets of jobs directly through Teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To people.
Right.
So that we've seen a positive use.
Yeah. Here's a link to this page.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Here's a budget. Here's the open orders against the job, and see the full view of that project.
I love Teams. I mean, the tabs you can add.
Yeah.
I even integrated mine with Power BI.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I've got Excel spreadsheets in there, Word tabs. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I like it. And what I like about it is when you update it on the Word, like let's say you have a Word tab and you update, I would say Excel, everybody uses Excel, and you update a line on Excel, it automatically updates the file that's saved on your computer as long as it hasn't been moved.
Yeah, and Power BI.
Cool.
I mean, it's a great use in tools and Teams.
Yeah.
You know, throw a Power BI reporting Teams. I mean, it works well.
Yeah, the line between all these Microsoft products is getting blurrier and blurrier, right?
Yeah.
Between Business Central, Outlook, Power BI, and Teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're at or looking at the data, right? It's different for different users and within different companies, but certainly that there's a lot of options of how the users can consume or interact with the
data. Exactly.
And it increases your productivity. If you're not hopping in and out of programs, you can do a lot more stuff and be a lot more productive by just staying in one.
Especially in this remote world.
Exactly.
That we live in now,
Yeah. It's a great idea. So, all right. With that, then, that is the featured segment. So, I guess we're going to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up. We need to rate the beer. I think
we got to rate the beer. Yeah, we got to rate the beer. Are we going to rate the bourbon?
Might as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let you rate the bourbon first.
100.
You got to leave a little bit of room.
I'm going to go 97 because you got to his point. You always have to leave a little bit.
You
of
have
room.
to. Yeah. I would say 98 because
it was delicious.
Thank you. It was good.
It was really good.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go with like a 95 for it.
All right, cool.
Definitely good.
Yeah.
Now on to the beer.
Yeah.
Did anybody get any horse blanket from it?
Not as much as the Dynamo, no, but a little bit, yeah.
So, to me, it's a light Oktoberfest type of beer, not as strong as some of the other ones. The rating, I like it. I'm gonna probably go with a solid 88. Once again, depending on when you drink it and where you drink it. If it's a hot summer day, my rating would probably be lower. But being October and cold outside, I'm going to go with a solid 88.
Yep.
What about you guys? What about you?
I'm going to admit I don't remember exactly what I gave the copper lager that we had last month, the Dynamo.
Probably.
I'm going to go 2 points higher than I gave the Dynamo Copper Lager. Right. I mean, because I think it's similar to that, but I enjoyed this more.
Yeah.
So I don't want to contradict myself and say this was better, but then I gave it a worse score because I don't remember what I said last month because I was drinking beer the whole time.
What about you,
sir? From just an Oktoberfest, right? Just rating an Oktoberfest, right? I would say this is one of the better ones. Right, that I've had, but just rating beers in general, right? If we're rating just Oktoberfest, I would say this would be 90 because it's nice and light. I could drink it, not too heavy. I could have a couple and still enjoy myself, and it tastes really good. But from an overall beer standpoint, if I'm rating all beers, right, that I've drinking, I'd probably say this would just probably go down to like 85. From my standpoint, because me personally, it gets a little. It gets a little
biscuity.
Yeah, biscuity a little bit, like a fat tire.
Yes,
like a fat tire towards the end.
There you go.
So, and I'm not.
That one's called fat tire, flat tire.
Flat tire.
It's one of our greatest hits.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, so 85 overall. I'd say 90 from an Oktoberfest.
You find it ironic the Cowboys fan chose 85 as a rating, which was the Bears' best season
get out of
ever.
here.
The Bears.
Get out of here.
All right, then. we will see, or we will talk to everybody next month. So
Yeah.
once
All
again,
right.
thanks, Nirav.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
guys.
been a blast.
Yep.